book of Revelation, it's John who wrote Revelation, who saw the vision. John records the same story, but he doesn't record it as Jesus says this, 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 and this. It's now the resurrected Jesus, the Jesus that's in heaven, calls John up to heaven and gives him a vision of the whole end times. And during that whole end times, Revelation chapter 6, John begins to see the Jesus opening some seals, and we'll talk about that. What that is it's a simple sort of a concept, and among a bunch of symbolism. John sees Jesus, he sees the throne of God. He's called up into heaven. He's in prison. He's on an island called Patmos, which is for political prisoners. And the rumor, or the history, the rumor's wrong, history's wrong, tradition. It's not in the Bible, but tradition says that the Romans tried to kill John over and over and over, and he wouldn't die. They boiled him in oil, and he wouldn't die. They tried to crucify him, and he didn't die. All these different things, and this is all tradition, not something that you can go look at. And John just wouldn't die. So they just stuck John on an island for prisoners and said, stay there. Can't deal with you. Right? So John, all the other disciples are eventually killed, beheaded, crucified, burned at the stake, whatever. John is left to die on his own on Patmos. And again, the tradition says he wouldn't die when they tried to execute him over and over and over. He wouldn't die. So John's on Patmos. He's having a vision. The whole first 4 or 5 chapters of Revelation. He's in prayer. He's caught up in a vision. And he's called up to heaven. And he sees the throne of God. And God is there on the throne. He describes him. And there's all these creatures and angels and the people he calls elders all around the throne. And they're worshiping God over and over. And all this kind of stuff is going on. And then this angel comes. And he sees on the throne is God. And God has a scroll in his hand. You know, we didn't have books back then. They had scrolls, right? So they had a scroll. And on the scroll were seals. And back in those days, the way when a king would send a message, he would have a scroll, and Denise, if I want to send Denise a message, and Sam's going to take it to her, use the messenger. This isn't for your eyes. You can't look at it, right? You're just a messenger girl. You're just a foot soldier. You're a delivery person. You're the mailman. You can't mail. So what they would do is they would take wax and pour it. They roll it up, and where the papers would meet, they pour wax on it, and they put his ring in there. And if it was broken when it got to her, they'd kill you for having being broken, right?
Does
So
that have to do with don't kill the messenger?
yeah, sort of. But you bring the message, and it's the seals. Well, God is sitting on the throne. He has this scroll. It has 7 seals on it, sealed up with 7 seals, not just one, 7. 7 is the number of completion in God's economy. He made the earth in 6 days. He rested on the 7th. All through Scripture, you'll find sevens everywhere.
Is that 7 years?
7 years. 7 years is complete. 7 days of the week is complete.
7 times 7.
7 times. Yeah, Jesus. When the disciples asked Jesus, "If my brother sins against me, shall I forgive him 7 times?" That would be completely. And John's, or that's like totally. And Jesus says, "No, 70 times 7." That keeps adding it up, making it worse. But 7s are all in there. And if you read Revelation 3, there's a ton of 7s in Revelation. But
Wasn't there something about 7 cows or something in a dream?
there was, I don't know if it was 7, maybe so. But that was Nebuchadnezzar. No, that was Nebuchadnezzar. 7 times around, they marched around the walls of Jericho 7 times, and blew the trumpet 7 times, and the walls fell. Lots of 7s. But in this case, there's 7 seals. An angel comes out, and he says, and my angel says, "Who is worthy to open the scroll? Who can handle it? Who's the man here?" And because God is there with it, and angels and elders and thousands upon thousands and millions of angels there, and he's saying, "Who's worthy?" And no one's worthy. So John's like, "Oh, I'm all upset. I'm crying because no one can open the scroll." The scroll represents the government of God, and it represents God setting His foundation, His kingdom on earth for sure done. And here's the scroll. Well, then suddenly an elder, one of the elders that he's seeing around the phone, who they are, we don't know for sure, but he's elders. And one of them says, "Don't cry. The Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David," and we talked about Jesus being the root of David. Remember we talked about that through the Multiply book. He's the root of David, the come from the line of kings. He says, he's been victorious. He can take the scroll. Well, John turns, and he doesn't see a lion. He sees a lamb that's been slain, which is Jesus, crucified on the cross, right? He went before them, and he allowed them to crucify him. He didn't fight like a lion. He died like a lamb silently, right? He let him do it. So he sees a lamb that's been slain, and the lamb, it's a symbolism. This is Jesus. It's Jesus. Comes up there, takes the seal out of God's hand. So now he holds the government of God. A man. now. Holds the government of God. Jesus, the man, holds the government of God. He begins breaking the 7 seals, one at a time. At a time. And in Revelation 6 is sharing with us each time he breaks a seal, John sees a vision. Okay? A separate thing. So we've got John, remember? We're going to look at Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and they're going to tell it Jesus, in his words, spelling out the end times. Then we're going to look at the same time, Revelation chapter 6, Jesus opening each seal. Okay? In the vision. Are we tracking? Is there any questions? Are we lost?
Is there
Real quick, go ahead.
Go.
Is there a reason why, other than the fact that he wrote the visions and revelations, as to why he did not write about it?
We don't know those things. No. There's nothing clear about that.
Okay.
We have no clue why he did it. But Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But see, we can often say God worked it out that way. He didn't have to have written it in the book, right? And I don't know if he wrote Revelation before he wrote the Gospel. Or maybe so he may have figured. I don't know.
Or when they pick and choose what went into the Bible, if it was John's version of Revelation, it might not have had to have been in.
Right. Well, John's sure. There's reasons. Yeah, we don't know why.
I was trying to really follow,
Yeah.
but I got lost. Where did John come into play?
John is the one having the vision. He's
Of all of this going
of
on.
all of this going on. The book of Revelation, John, the disciple of Jesus, wrote it.
Right.
And he was on the island of Patmos as a
And
prisoner.
this was what he saw.
He saw it. He was taken up into heaven.
That's why Revelations is like it had happened.
Yes. It's all, yes, it's a vision. It's a vision of the future.
And he's trying to explain what he's seen.
He's explaining what he
his
sees
day
in his
time.
day's
So
place.
who was
Yes.
holding, the Lord was holding
God himself
Yeah.
on the throne was holding the
it
scroll.
in Jesus.
And Jesus walks in and takes it.
So when did
Okay.
this happen in Jesus' life?
It didn't.
It didn't.
This was a
This is
vision
a
John
vision of
saw
the end of the
in
end
heaven.
of times.
Which hasn't happened yet.
It's a
Jesus took
vision
John
of the
to
end
heaven
times.
to see all this.
It would be as if right now.
No, I get all that.
Okay.
I'm trying to get a timeline here because I'm seeing, and you're telling me that this is, John is telling Revelations about the future, about
Yes.
his visions,
Yes.
about how Jesus walks up and takes the 7 scrolls.
Takes the scroll and starts breaking the
7
seals.
Scrolls, 7 seals.
It's in the future. It hasn't happened.
What part are you having trouble with, like, what he's seeing, what timeline that is, or like what time he's having his vision?
Or do you know where you're
So let me think about it for a minute. It made sense in my head a second ago. Let me think. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Let's lose the timeline for a second. Only because you can concentrate on this. Because now we're going to go back into Jesus' life, and we're going to look at what he said would happen.
I know what it was.
Good.
When he's telling about the visions, I guess this is Jesus, like, way later
He's
on.
already gone. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not Jesus, like, when he was a kid, he walked up or anything like
No.
that. Okay.
The story, Matthew, Mark, and Luke are Jesus as a man before he's crucified on the earth speaking to his
And John
disciples.
has
And John was with him too.
but John has a book too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But he doesn't talk about this story. He doesn't tell this
Right.
story.
But he's, okay. But then he also does the Revelation, which is where
Yes.
he talks about all this stuff. I guess what I was losing is you
Okay.
said Jesus walked up, and I'm thinking, like,
Yes. No,
this
it's a
is why Jesus
vision.
is still
But,
alive.
No.
but
No, this
Matthew,
is
Mark,
in all in
and
heaven.
Luke are talking about what Jesus
Said while he was here.
Okay.
But John saw it in a vision.
Got it.
Hey, can you do me a favor?
Yes.
Read. You do Matthew, right?
No,
No, you do Matthew.
Sam's doing Matthew.
So I've shown you guys to the stories of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Jesus is there with his disciples. They're looking at the temple, and he says it's all going to be crumbled down. And they come to him, and they ask him a question. And they ask Jesus this question, basically. When will all this happen? What he's saying, the temple being destroyed and all this bad stuff. And what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the world? Or age, depending on your translation. End of the world. What's the sign of your coming at the end of the world? And then we're going to skip a few verses in because Jesus just starts talking to them. Don't be scared. Don't be alarmed. And by the way, that's one of the reasons to study this. Don't be scared. Don't be alarmed. I know.
That's what we want.
If you'll read,
Supposed to scare the,
Yeah.
supposed to scare the hell out of
if you'll read for me Matthew 24:6.
You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come.
Okay. Okay, what you doing, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Mark 13:7. And about it's the same conversation, the same story.
When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, don't be alarmed. These things must take place, but the end is not yet.
Luke 21:9, which you guys reading?
And when you hear of wars, well, I'm actually used to this. This is my real simple version.
That's okay. No, it's good. It's actually pretty good. It's fine.
Okay.
Luke 21:9.
And when you hear of wars and insurrections, don't panic. Yes, these things must come, but the end won't follow immediately.
Okay. So now we're pretty clear. Jesus is like, okay, these are wars and rumors of wars. If you will read, John or Catherine, whichever one you just read, Revelation 6:1 and 2. This is, again, now we're at Jesus. We're at John's vision. Jesus has a scroll. He's going to break the first seal. And it's on your paper there. They go across the page.
It cut it off. Revelations, what?
6:1 and 2. I'm sorry, yeah, you cut it off my printer?
It is.
That's Revelation 6:1 and 2. If you guys read.
Now I watched when the Lamb opened one of the seven seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures say, with a voice like thunder, come. And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and came out conquering and to conquer.
Now, there's symbolism there. The rest of us are reading, there's no symbolism. It's, you'll hear of wars, rumors of wars, don't be afraid.
What is the revelation? Sorry, what is it I cut off?
6:1, 2.
6:1 and 2.
Okay.
Now, when you see symbolism, he's seeing in the spirit, and this is a spiritual thing. This is not necessarily a human person. This is a spirit of war, right? He's on a white horse. He has a crown. He has a bow. He's a weapon of war, and he's going forth to conquer on conquest, right? That's what we're looking at the first. And now, if those kind of overlap, then good. But you can't make a doctrine on that. We can make a doctrine on the Matthew, Mark, and Luke all put together. It's the same thing. But now we're tying it into Revelation. And then let's go to the next one then. So right now I'm at wars and rumors of wars. If you look across the top of your paper there, it'll show you all those things go together. You got wars and rumors of war. You're doing Matthew?
Mm-hmm.
Read Matthew 24:7.
Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places.
Go ahead and read the rest of that. Read 8.
All these are the beginning of birth pains.
All right. Okay. 13:8.
13:8.
Yep. Mark 13:8.
For nations will rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places and famines. These are the beginnings of birth pains.
And 21:10.
Then he added, nations and kingdoms will proclaim war against each other.
Ah, that was it on yours? I like that. No, I actually like New Living. New Living's pretty darn good.
It's real simple.
Right.
But
Now,
my battery was about to die, so I
yeah.
went
No, I'm glad you did. Revelation 6:3 and 4. Now we're at the second seal.
When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, come. And out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was committed to take peace from the earth, so that the people should slay one another, and he was given a great sword.
Again,
That one I can see.
yeah. If you go across, right, it gets deeper. As you go across the page there, you'll see the second seal, Revelation 6:3 and 4, matches up with the verses in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and we're at warfare, right? We've got a large-scale warfare.
I'm
Go ahead.
reading this stuff. What's going on with these horses?
This is
In the Revelation.
it's a spirit going forth. It's nothing
There's
to do with a
4
real.
horses, though.
Yeah, that's called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Let's don't get hung up on
They're
them.
not real horses, though. It's symbols.
You know what's really
It's
honestly helping me out? This
symbolism.
is watching
I
Supernatural.
know, I figured it would.
It's symbolism.
Okay.
This is total symbolism. What you're seeing in Revelation parts are symbolism.
So what is the
which
white
is-
horse symbolizing?
Or, look across your
War.
sheet. I gave it
Yeah,
to you.
I'm just making
All
sure.
the way across the sheet.
So what's the difference between wars and rumors of wars versus warfare?
Could be different. Could not be different. Amanda had a really excellent point today. And we talk about, this is the whole, I don't want to get too deep into all of Revelation, but there is a man at the end of time in the Bible called the man of lawlessness, the man of sin, the son of perdition, or the Antichrist. And he's a man that rises up and rules the entire world. Amanda made a really cool point today. She says,
Tradition or
he's got all these names. Like Jesus is called the King of Kings and the Lord of
Okay,
Lords.
okay,
And
okay.
he got all these bad
I
names.
thought you were saying the name was.
You're a big butthole, is what it really is. You're a big, bad man.
Okay.
and he's the Antichrist, the opposite of Jesus, the opposite of Christ. And Amanda made a good point. She said, maybe the white horse, he has a crown, he comes forth with a bow, but that could be a good guy on a white horse. And at the end of Revelation, we see Jesus coming on a white horse, by the way. So it could look, well, this is a good guy. This is good. Look at this guy. Yeah, he's conquering, but he's, he's taking control of things, and that's a good thing. And we'll all go, yay, look at this guy. And then suddenly, oh no, he's a red horse with a sword, and we're slaying one another, right? Excellent point today.
As I said, the guy the Antichrist will
Fools
fool
the world.
us.
He fools the
will
world
think
into
that
believing
he's
he's a good
guy.
man. This man is setting
But he's
everything
a
right.
right.
And he's horrible. So it could be that. Correct, like a black hat, white hat cowboy movie,
Yeah.
right? Takes white hat off, puts black hat on.
Somewhere in here it says that someone will come saying that they are him, that they are of God.
Yes, yeah, and
the Messiah.
yeah, that's in the beginnings of that.
And will deceive many.
Yeah, they'll deceive many. They'll come in my name saying, and it's all before. It's Matthew 24, the first couple of verses. Do not be deceived.
Well, it says,
They'll-
for many will come in my name.
There will be many antichrists, many little antichrists, many false prophets, many people claiming things. So you're going to be deceived. I actually like that going along with her white horse idea. I'd never thought of it as the white than the red. That same symbolism of the same thing going on here, just a switch, right? Like it a lot. So we clear. Terry, we're in symbolism on the horses, okay? And again, Matthew 24:7 covers several of these. So if you read 24:7 just again to us.
Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom rise and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth.
Okay, and can you read Mark 13:8 again?
For nations will rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places, and famines. These are the beginning of birth pains.
All right, man, you
There
read
will
21.
be-
21:11, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There will be great earthquakes, and there will be famines and epidemics in many lands, and there will be terrifying things and great miraculous signs in the heavens.
Okay, now, if you'll read the third seal in Revelation 6:5 and 6.
When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a black horse, and its rider had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the four living creatures, saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and wine."
Okay. The denarius. Read, Terry, anybody else in Revelation, happen to be in Revelation?
Yeah.
I'm in Revelation.
Will you read for me the same one? And the reason is, we don't know what a denarius is today, right? A denarius is a certain amount of money, okay? If you'll read the NIV, or maybe, no, you said there, Terry's going to Revelation 6, 7, and 8. 5 and 6. It'll help us with the idea of a denarius.
When the Lamb opened the third
okay.
seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the four living creatures, saying, "A quart of wheat for a day's wages, and 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and wine."
Okay. What you're looking at there, that translates to denarius. From the idea
Kind
of
of how a lot of countries already are.
yes, a denarius was it took a man a day to make enough money to get a denarius. Think about what you make in a day. What I'm making a day, what John or Kane, what each one of us makes in a day. It would buy a quart of wheat. That's
Think about a quart of wheat.
that's
To the loaf of wheat bread or 3 loaves of barley.
okay. Think about that. It take a man all day to buy 1 loaf of bread. You're looking at food shortage, right? And what we've talked about here is famine, right? We're looking at famine. So now these things are lining up pretty good. Wars and rumors of wars with a bow, warfare with a black horse. With a red horse. Now we've got famine coming, right? We got all these things going on.
Well, it may not even be actual food shortage.
Well,
I'm looking at controlled food.
Well, there's different ways to do it. And one example would be, for example, the Russians in the 1940s, 50s, they starved out the population of the nation of Georgia. They starved Poland as well. They just went in and wouldn't deliver food, right, to these starving regions. When the cold winter would come or whatever, they cut them all off, surround them. It's almost like a, what they call it, a siege in warfare.
I found something here about the denarius too.
Yeah.
Usually is only done when you actually are headed towards a famine. They try to
But
prepare.
not if the Antichrist is here
And he's wanting to control a population, which is what the Russians did to the Poles and to the
Well,
Georgians.
he wants you to bow to someone other than Jesus.
Yes.
To get you to do
And
that
with
thing,
the storm.
you take the one thing away that you have to have.
It's
You're going
food.
to do what he says.
Right. So it could be, but Jesus said famines. So there are going to be famines. We can say there's control, yes, but there's also famine. And so we're looking at famine at this point as well. Go ahead, Kate. You talk about some of the denarius.
It's nothing major, but just a small detail. It's a small silver Roman coin, which is equal to a day's wage.
So you're
it's
looking.
something that was
You
actually
got to work
used.
all day to get that, right? And you can buy a loaf of bread with it. At the end of the, a man slaving all day to buy a loaf of bread, you can barely feed your family. You can't feed your family with a loaf of bread, so now you're starving. So we're looking at control. I agree, except for Jesus said
Can there
famine.
be controlled famine?
Sure,
Because
they did
shortage of
control.
food could be
It could be made by man. It could be, they did it in Vietnam. They go with Agent Orange, pour it over the jungles, kills all the plants so that you could see the Viet Cong soldiers hiding. I mean, there's all kinds of ways they can destroy food, right? It could be intentional or it could be,
But is
That's
famine
natural.
destroyed food, or
Famine
can it
is-
just be taken?
no,
Like
there is
have.
none. No.
It's just lack of.
Lack of.
lack of food,
So,
but
yeah.
not lack of food.
Yeah, but we're talking about worldwide, so you're not talking, or a large scale. You're not talking about little bits.
No, I
We're
know
kind of
that.
reading into the possibilities of how it could happen.
Yeah.
Bottom
Yeah,
line
the bottom line, it's
going
food
to
shortage.
happen.
It doesn't matter how it happens in the end. It's food shortage, huge food shortage. Again, and we're sticking in. We've got one more time. We're stuck in Matthew 24:7 and Mark 13:8. If you'll, because we're still here together. Yeah, go ahead and read it again.
Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom.
Hang on one second, Sam. I apologize to you. You don't need to do that, and Kane doesn't need to read. But Amanda, because it's a little bit different in Luke. The Luke version has one extra word or a couple of extra words in there. So read Luke 21:11 again. So we have to do it again because
Do you want me to do it on a different version?
nope. I
Just
like
some
the version.
There will be great earthquakes, and there will be famines and epidemics in many lands, and there will be terrifying things and great miraculous signs in the heavens.
Okay. Hers added a word epidemic, right? Or pestilence in the NIV, or in the King James Version, I think maybe plagues or pestilences.
One of the versions we read the other night was plagues.
Some are plagues, some are pestilences, some are, hers was epidemics. If you'll read Revelation 6, 7, and 8.
When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him, and they were given authority over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, and with famine, and with pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth.
Now let's remember, in the second seal we had the sword, right? The third seal we had a famine, and in the fourth seal we now add pestilence. We're adding, it's getting worse and worse. Now we got diseases, we got epidemics, you got the Black Plague or the Red Death or
And I noticed when
some
she
other.
just read that, it said killing people on the fourth of the earth with famine. Like, he gave
Yeah.
that to this pale horse.
So these sorts of things, what I'm saying is my grid here, it goes across that we're trekking together, right? As, the Matthew, the Mark, the Luke, all trek together with the Revelation, with the seals, okay?
If the whole earth, if you put all the continents together of the whole earth, would that be 1/4?
Put all the what?
Continents together.
Of the landmass?
Oh, the land?
Well, using
I thought he said the communists.
no, like if you would all the continents, if you put them together, would that equal a fourth of?
Of the entire-
Isn't
of the
water like
entire earth.
2/3 of the earth?
Yeah, something like that.
What's that?
Are we
What was the
getting,
name
is
of
it
that
getting smaller?
Yes, yes. We're looking at the idea of the fourth of the population, not the landmass.
Oh, okay.
The thing that they called it when all the things were together.
Pangea. Pangea. All right, so now we're getting things are switching up a little bit. Sam, if you'll read Matthew 24.
The little
Okay, where are you?
grave and the death.
Say that again.
The grave and the death.
Gotcha. Here's the deal. Death followed, and the grave with it. Hades. Her translation said Hades. Hades was the Greek word for the realm of the dead. Okay, it means you're dying. It's people are dying. This is really, really getting rough now. Death and hell followed, or death and Hades followed. Or, Say it.
Like the Reaper.
There you go. That's probably where the idea of the Grim Reaper comes from. The idea of it. But it's people dying. It's symbolism again. It's, whether it's one guy had a sword, one guy had a bow, one guy has a scale in his hand weighing out money and food. This guy.
Two of them had swords.
We're gonna tell
The
horse.
fourth and
Well, either way, the details of those things are.
Man, just
If you get lost, you'll be lost. So don't intentionally lose yourself. Read Samuel 24, 9 through 12 now.
Then you will be handed over to the persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. Can you keep reading?
Read the next one.
But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved.
That's why we're reading. Why you should study this. Read Mark. What are they? Mark 13, 9 through 13.
But you be on your guard. They will hand you over to the Sanhedrin.
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 That's the council of religious leaders.
They will hand you over to the Sanhedrins, and you will be flogged in the synagogues. You will stand before governors and kings because of me, as a witness to them. And the good news must first be proclaimed to all nations. So when they arrest you and hand you over, don't worry beforehand what you will say. On the contrary, whatever is given to you in that hour, say it. For it isn't you speaking, but the Holy Spirit. Then brother will betray brother to death, and father his child. Children will rise up against parents and put them to death.
And man, if you done, was that it?
I didn't get the 13.
Okay, keep
and
going.
you will be hated by everyone because of my name, but the one who endures to the end will be delivered.
So now we've got the love of many growing cold, parents reporting their children to government officials that, hey, they're Christians, children reporting their parents, brothers reporting their brothers to government officials to be killed because they're Christians.
Seems like we're not that far.
Well, it feels close, doesn't it? Maybe you do 12 through 19 in Luke 21. I'm interested in reading that translation, so don't try to keep getting out of there. I'm interested in hearing it.
But before all this occurs, there will be a time of great persecution. You will be dragged into synagogues and prisons, and you will be accused before kings and governors of being my followers. This will be your opportunity to tell them about me. So don't worry about how to answer the charges against you, for I will give you the right words and such wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to apply. Even those closest to you, your parents, brothers, relatives, and friends will betray you, and some of you will be killed, and everyone will hate you because of your alliance to me. But not a hair of your head will perish. By standing firm, you will win your soul. You will win your souls.
Okay? As we do this fifth seal, 9 and 10.
When he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the witness they had borne. They cried out with a loud voice, O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you will judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? Then they were each given a white robe and told to rest a little longer until the number of their fellow servants and their brothers should be complete, who were to be killed as they themselves had been.
It'll be okay. It's
Synagogue.
it's just
A synagogue, is that like a present day church?
Yeah, it'd be like a church, or yeah. In that day, that's where the Jews would go to worship.
And
But-
it said they would be sent there and killed.
Yeah, beaten and killed.
Mhm.
So you'll
So they'll
be
take them into the church.
could be
Torture
Well,
them
they
for
said that they would,
information,
like,
and then
accuse them there.
try to
and
get
before
information.
governors and kings,
Yeah.
right? So you'll be taken before government officials. Let me
So
check
it'll be
something.
like a Christian, huh?
It will be. 1 second. I'm going to check on something. I may have made a mistake. Yeah, I did not. Skip. I was gonna read the Second
And so, like,
Thessalonians.
you can't even just be
Skip back.
quiet. You know,
Right.
you have to, like, proclaim
Right.
Jesus as your Lord.
And what he's saying in the part that came in the Mark version is this. Don't even worry about what am I going to say when I get up here. What am I going to say? Just keep your mouth shut, and when you don't even think about it, when you get there, whatever you say, God is putting in your mouth, and you are preaching to the government. We got to remember what we're saying here. I mean, it sounds creepy, not to me, because let's do this all day. It's what I do all day. Think about this, but you're talking to the government.
Think about it.
No, I mean not what I was saying, but the idea of you're persecuted by government. This is not your neighbor. Hey, the Joneses are pissed and they're going to come get us. No, it's the government. This is controlled persecution, right? But you saw in Revelation, you see immediately the same time we're talking in the order that Jesus told his story of what would happen in Revelation. Now we see people being slain and persecuted. What do you see under the altar? The souls of them who are being persecuted, the ones who are being killed for the testimony of Jesus.
People in the Holocaust were just like, I just think about those people that are like just sitting in there and they know that it's coming, they know it's coming, and all they can hold on to is like what they're reading in the Bibles.
Yeah. Well, that may be where we are.
Because like of everything they knew what was going on in the Holocaust.
Right.
Here they are, holding on to that. I mean, it's like.
That's all you've got. You've got to have it, though. Because if we're just all just jerking around in our lives and we're playing like we have it and we're just shopping and working and playing and going swimming and having cookouts,
like,
you don't have it, that relationship.
To them, they felt like that was possibly one of the situations.
I don't know. No, because they were Jews. They were not Christians. They didn't believe in any of this. They didn't believe in the words of Jesus. Correct.
And this sounds like something that's going to be very clear to everybody.
Very clear.
Going on, not questionable at all or anything.
Sure.
Like
but
reading too much into something, it'll be.
Right. Yeah.
So what was there, I mean, and you weren't there, I know that, but I mean, like, in theory, like, what would have been their reasoning for why that was done to them? If they
evil men doing evil
if they
things.
Don't believe in
evil men doing evil things. I mean, there's always that, and we can get this will get mired up in that. But that's similar thinking is we have to know what's coming, right? We have to expect this stuff to
Be
come.
able to recognize
But
it.
they did all that because of God, and
Well,
that was just a
the whole-
crazy man doing.
Yeah, and this will be another one. This will be similar, but on a larger scale.
Right.
It'll be the whole world.
Right. Let's look at Matthew 24, 29 through 31.
29 through 31.
Yes.
Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give up its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory.
Okay.
And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other.
That's it. Okay. 24 through 27 in your place.
But in those days after the tribulation, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not shed its light. The stars will be falling from the sky, and the celestial powers will be shaken. How far does that go? That was 27. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory. He will send out the angels and gather his elect from the four winds, from the end of the earth to the end of the sky.
So that 21, 25 to 28.
And there will be strange events in the sky, signs in the sun, moon, and stars. And down here on earth the nations will be in turmoil, perplexed by the roaring seas and strange tides. The courage of many people will falter because of the fearful fate they see coming upon the earth, because the stability of the very heavens will be broken up. Then everyone will see the Son of Man arrive on the clouds with power and great glory. So when all these things begin to happen, stand straight and look up, for your salvation is near.
Okay. And so now we're pretty clear. Sun turns black, moon turns red as blood. The heavens are shaken. The sky literally kind of
Stars are falling.
rips open. You got maybe meteor showers. Lord knows exactly what all that looks like. horrible. The sky rips open somehow. You see the Son of God. You see Jesus coming on clouds with power and great glory. It's not a sneaky thing. He goes into it a little bit, and I think we skip it in the study, but where he says, so, it'll be like that. So if you hear, oh, Jesus, the Christ, he's out in the desert, don't go. And he says, if you see us in the inner rooms, he's in this little hiding place talking to people, don't go. That's a lie. Because he says, because even as you can see lightning, it's in the east, you can see it from the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. They will see it. Everybody is going to know. It's not a little thing. It's not a sneaky thing. It's not a, oh, what in the heck just happened? Something ripping between dimensions is the best way I could say
the
it.
sun's
Occurs.
black, stuff's falling from
And
the
you
sky,
see
the heavens are shaking. I think we'll all have
Okay? And read the Revelation now, 12 through 14 in chapter 6, the sixth seal.
When he opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth, the full moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth, as the fig tree sheds its winter fruit when shaken by a gale. The sky vanished like a scroll that is being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place.
Okay. We can see that this is where these things link up 100%. The sky, you've got the sun turning black, the moon turning blood red, stars falling from the sky, and then in the Matthew, Mark, and Luke versions, Jesus comes on the clouds with power and great glory. Do me a favor, go another verse. I'm not turning there in my Bible, so what verse did you stop at?
That was 14.
Read one more. I may have written too
Yeah,
few.
as if you keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Then the kings of the earth,
Yeah.
and the great ones, and the generals, and the rich, and the powerful, and everyone, slave and free, hid themselves in the caves, and among the rocks of the mountains, calling to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who is seated on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of their wrath has come, and who can stand?
Now, that's
By
what
the
they're
time he
seeing
shows
him.
his face, by the time he shows his face, it's too late for everyone who didn't.
Right.
What about the people that aren't exposed to it?
What people who aren't exposed to what?
People that are not exposed to Christianity in other countries that
Okay.
are not
That's
there.
that's a discussion. That's a huge discussion that's secondary to this. We can have that tonight at midnight or later, whatever
No,
time.
I just,
But no.
I do want to,
He's-
that's
he-
something I do have a question. That
Yeah,
is
we'll
something I
let's
have a
work on
question
that.
about.
We'll talk about that. But the deal is this: he comes, and remember the parts where he says earlier when Cain was reading, "Don't worry about what you're going to say, because you will be a witness in what you say before these government officials, before the government of the world, so to speak. That this will be a witness. It will be God's Spirit of God speaking through you." And then it says, "And the gospel of the kingdom we preach to all nations before the day comes." So everyone has an opportunity. But the point is every person we know for real, every person doesn't get that opportunity. It's a whole other question. But in this scenario, you've got, for sure, sun turns black, moon turns to blood, stars fall from the sky, and then in what she saw, what he saw, and what Kevin just read, the sky somehow rolls up or just disappears, and then people see Jesus coming. And we see them seeing him coming as well, because they're looking at him and saying, the sky rips open, and then suddenly they're saying, hide us from the face of the one on the throne and from the Lamb, because their day has come. So they're seeing what Jesus said in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they would be seeing, right?
The ones that are trying to hide, that's the ones that haven't put their faith up.
Correct,
yet?
yes.
Okay.
They're scared. These are the rulers of the world at this time, the kings, the generals, the mighty men.
Okay.
That's who's running the world.